Hello, everyone. It's me back again. Possibilities with Monique de Maio. I have an awesome guest today. Her name is Michele Parad. Let me tell you a little bit about Michele. She is the founder of Sell Your Brilliance Accelerator. Michele is an intuitive guide for conscious leaders, author, and speaker. She is known for Your Brilliance Archetype guides and the SELL method, a spiritual philosophy which has helped empower her clients to build businesses that align with their path towards self actualization. She's also the author of an international best selling book, Success with Source. She has 15 years of deep expertise in startup marketing and simultaneously is an advanced healer and mindset trainer with certifications in 6+ spiritual modalities. Her flagship program, Sell Your Brilliance, takes individuals through higher conscious marketing strategies and activation processes to confidently launch their heart centered businesses. Good welcome, Michele. How are you?
Hi, Monique. It's so great to be here. Thank you so much for the introduction.
You are just a kick ass badass. That's like a double whammy. I love talking to you because every time I talk to you, I feel like I just got a dose of centeredness. So I want you to explain how what your background was because you're a citizen of the world and I admire you on so many levels from that perspective. Tell people where you are, what you're up to, what your background was, and then we can get into your heart-centered philosophy and business and how you help women sort of achieve that.
Thank you so much. Yes, I guess I could call myself a citizen of the world. I've lived in 11 plus cities
Ooh,
and
name
counting.
them, name them. This is so interesting to me.
Oh my goodness. So we've got Chicago, Paris, Prague, Zurich, London, Miami, New York, San Francisco, back to New York, and several moves, in all of those places as well. And right now I'm being a little bit of a digital nomad too, because I'm 100% remote in my job. And so I'm exploring what's next for me.
And you're in Lisbon right now, are you not?
I'm currently in Lisbon, yes. There is different opportunities here, networking, a beautiful breathwork retreat here. So I'm going where spirit is leading me. So
That is really, really awesome. First of all, I love all the cities that you named.
yes, I cannot complain where I got to live for sure. But it's just to say that there's pluses and minuses to travel, and of course, I'm so blessed to have met so many different people from different you know walks of earth, really, and I do really think that that has made an impact as far as how I work with different individuals because I do really come from a place of deep empathy because in some senses I've at least had an exposure to what they've been going through. And so even the people I work with tend to have some kind of multi-ethnicity, multi-nationality backgrounds. And so that's interesting how I draw in, similar people to me ultimately. So just like you. So that's why we get along.
That's it. That's it. We click. We're like, if we had our way, we would probably never, there would be no actual address. It would just be a rotating series of addresses around the world. So tell me, so you grew up with this citizen of the world, you speak multiple languages, you're just so open. You show up and the energy that pours from you is just so positive. For those of you listening, I'm sure you can also feel it. And those of you who are watching can definitely see it emanating from Michele. I want you to talk about how you came to form the Sell Your Brilliance program and in the book and how that all came to be.
So it was really an iteration. It was a rebirth after rebirth that got me to this place. And I'm not even done. I'm not even close to done with the evolution of where I'm going. But, initially it started out as I went on a journey of healing myself. And then I progressed to being so interested in the different modalities I was coming across to heal my own body. And so I healed myself from different hormonal issues, from other types of ailments that I was going through. And I was like, I really want to share this with other people. It was incredible to me that I could feel so amazing and not have to use any kind of Western medicine along the way. So it started off as a bit of a hobby, as me just working with different individuals on all different types of aspects of their life. So anything from, honestly, I was working with cancer patients, I was working with people on finding their soulmates.
Take notes, ladies.
Interesting, interestingly, everything is pretty interconnected. And so our thoughts, our emotions, our, physical issues, they're all one and the same. So where you have an issue with a relationship, that translates into your body telling you, giving you signals that you're not with the right person. And so, it's pretty evident once you start to unpack the signals as to what is happening and how to decode the direction you should be going in. And so it is this deep listening to your soul, to your body, that we've all forgotten how to do. And we've been so conditioned to follow experts, to follow our parents' advice, to follow, our teachers in our, society, and what they ingrain us as to what we should be doing and where we should be. That we forgot to think for ourselves. We don't know how to do that anymore, and we don't know the difference between what's heart led and what is egoic, and what is something that is someone else's design for you. We can easily be manipulated by other people's desires when we don't know our own.
Let's just pause and have that played back to ourselves. It is easy to be manipulated if we don't know what we want, basically, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
And I cannot tell you how much I agree with that. We're in a compare and despair culture where people are making decisions based on what they see other people doing, and it makes me crazy. What do you attribute that to? I mean, in your work, you see a lot of pain, I imagine, and then you free them from the pain in with these different modalities. Like, talk to us a little bit about how that looks. What has a female business owner come to you and say, I'm very intrigued, I'm sure. What do you mean by creating a heart-centered business?
So it's obviously very, very individual based on, everyone has come here with their own gifts and skill sets. And yes, some of our experiences has added to that and given us, additional talents that we were not born with. But at the same time, I think individuals forget, when they were little, what they innately gravitated to. Because again, parents, other people sort of made the decisions for us. And so then, at that point in time, we didn't have the autonomy and the sovereignty to go our own way because we were so dependent on others. So, in order to please other people and in order to survive, ultimately, we had to do what they, told us to do. And so, so that really starts from a very young age, and the traumas that we endure, especially between the ages 0 and 7, make a really, really big impact on our brains and how we perceive the world. And so, it turns out that 95% of our reality is created from our subconscious. And our subconscious is mostly wired from that young age. So that's how we're operating in the world. We're operating from the perspective of, if we see abuse when we're little, or if we were abused ourselves, then it becomes a repeating pattern for us. So we continue to be abused, or we continue to see that in our environment because that's what we were trained, that that was normal, or that was the norm of what even love felt like or existed like. And so anything that was outside of that, we didn't gravitate to because it was, in a strange way, not safe, and in a strange way, just foreign. And so, so that's really what I do, is help unpack those experiences. And they can be micro experiences, that they don't have to be these big, big issues, but even some small thing that happened to you can have these ripple effects into your adulthood as well.
Can you give us, now obviously you wouldn't, it's not important to know who the person is, but an example of someone who was facing this and that you were able to work with and found her way to her intended or the business of her, of her dream or
Yeah. Well, I'll even share, my own personal experience. When I was 1 years old, I got severely burned. It was my babysitter that poured boiling water on me. I want to say it's an accident, but I'm not sure. And I think ever since then, I had this mistrust, I would say, with my caregivers or anyone that was of a kind of mentorship type of role. And so that's kind of what repeated for me is I would get these people that I wanted to trust, and but really they ended up hurting me in a very significant way. And that, until I recognized that that was the pattern that I was receiving, and was able to release that through different methods, I was finally able to really bring in the individuals and the people that I do truly feel like are here to up level me and to support me. So that's just one of the examples. Um, but it really is very dependent. You can think of it from a negative perspective, but everything has a positive and a shadow side to it, right? Because the fact that I had these mentors actually taught me a lot of discernment in my life. It started to, because I'm naturally someone who wants to trust people, actually, and deeply doesn't. It's one of those things where, like, I don't even expect someone would do something that I wouldn't. But so it was through those experiences that I got a lot of discernment around, what people's intentions were. And this is a skill that is very important, I would say, in business. And that's where, I started to really understand and realize where to make the right investments. Because if you make the wrong investments, in the wrong people, in the wrong companies, or, in the wrong team members, that can cost a lot of money. That can be really costly, and that can be a lot of time to recuperate that type of investment, versus, when you have that discernment, you learned those virtues, you invest in the right people, like, they can really catapult your business. So that's, a personal experience. But I can definitely cite for you, for example, this one woman who had this amazing software, and she would go into these sales meetings, and they would all be really excited about it. And at the last minute, they would say no. And she had no idea why it was happening to her. And so then, we kind of unraveled some of her prior experiences. And it actually had nothing to do with her sales skills. It had nothing to do with her, ability to, or the product or the ability to market it in any way. It actually just had to do with an experience of being rejected by men. And then these were mostly men, I guess, that she was probably selling to, when she was a teenager. And so as soon as we, released that from her subconscious, she was able to immediately close. And so it's just something as simple as just, as simple as that, but really it's the foundation for how we're operating in the world.
So this process, the different modalities that you have, allow people to succeed in whatever it is that they want to succeed in, whether that's setting up a business or just having a better life.
Yeah, so what I'm describing is one of the tools that I use is subconscious work. So that's really in the form of kind of meditation, connecting with the creator, understanding a little bit of the psychology behind the root causes of things, and then releasing them energetically. So that's one of the methods I use. But I also use different spiritual tools like personality type tests to help people, and astrology, for example, as well, which I know is supposedly a pseudo science, but I think it's just one of those things that hasn't been proven yet scientifically. I always give it given that definition instead. But there's a lot of clues. There's a lot of information to help us understand ourselves much more deeply, and as soon as you start to see yourself a little bit differently, like, oh, wow, there's this aspect of myself I had no idea I was actually really good at. And then you start to explore it, and suddenly this whole new version of you can kind of sprout from it. So I really start to navigate that with my clients to help them map out the business model that's correct for them, because oftentimes people are heart centered. They want to work in a specific industry, or they want to, let's say, become a coach, and so the heart is in the right place, but they haven't designed it correctly according to their genius. And so that, is unfortunately, a lot of people fail, I think, because they haven't, centered it around themselves. They've just centered it around an idea. And that's kind of where the your brilliance concept comes in. And so I created these archetypes as well. And archetypes are all around us, and we've used them for brand. We've used them, since the beginning of time. They're these like hero's journey, and these particular archetypes just help people, again, understand another aspect of what their role is to play in this world. And so people often pick the wrong archetype, again, mostly because other people have told them, "Oh, I think you'd be good as a writer," and then they become a writer, and has nothing to do with what they actually are good at. It's just someone else's idea. And so they're living out kind of this facade, a little bit of a lie around who they are. And so it's unpacking that so they can course correct. And when they align themselves in the right archetype, there's just so many other things that come into play. The universe kind of conspires.
In a good way, in a good way. So what would be, give me like a common one or two or three archetypes that, or did I do that assessment with you? I haven't, right?
I'm not sure if you have yet.
Darn it, I should have done it before the podcast. We would have had such
I'll be curious which one you have. And it's typically also the one that's coming up to the surface right now. We might have several archetypes that live within us, but there's one that wants to be nurtured at the moment. And so, I've seen, for example, a lot of CEOs that want to set up their business as a builder, right? Like they create technology, software, things like that. but actually, perhaps they're an educator. So they're really a thought leader. They're meant to be out there speaking, doing workshops, things like that, and that could be the aspect that they take over in their business, and then someone else in their business does the technology piece, right? So that that's potentially one example. One particular individual that, funny enough, she worked for a network marketing company and was so turned off by the way in which they were selling people. And the irony of it is that she's actually a networker. Like, that is her design. But she was so turned off by the way that we interact generally in the society and the way we think we should be networking, that she doesn't actually know that that's really her design, because she's just had these experiences. So it's about unpacking that and actually demonstrating to her that she's actually really, really good at connecting with people.
She just might have to carve out a different way of doing things for herself. That's all.
Exactly.
She's obvious. I mean, if she's in the right place, in the right, she's aligned with what she's doing. It's just how she's delivering the sale or the selling process. That's something in her control, and it's cool that you allowed her to see that for herself, because she could have
Exactly.
like thrown the baby out with the bathwater, as the expression goes.
Right, and just creating a business that doesn't align with that at all. I mean, she, most of her marketing was really around, ads and email strategy and things like that, which is too bad because it's all about relationships for her. And so, that's where it's like it's not working because you're not doing the right strategy for you. And so, yeah, there's all these interesting revelations that come to the surface when working together. But the origin of my program, Sell Your Brilliance, it also came from astrology, and interestingly, I picked something that, and this is often the case for all of us. I picked something that is difficult for me, that I had to evolve into. And by doing so, I'm teaching other people how to do the same. Yeah, I picked an area, which is technically in my Saturn, area, which is the area you're meant to work on. And oftentimes, for people who are service providers or coaches, it often happens that you get paired with people who are 6 months to a year behind you. So I've just evolved to a certain place, and it has nothing to do with the number of years that they are in their business. It's more about what you're uncovering for yourself and the lesson that you're learning. And then I find that I've just gone through a process of learning something, and I'm able to then hold someone else in their space as they're going through a very similar challenge. So that is kind of what happens when you start in the mystical realm. You start to notice, these types of things where you get matched up with people very, very divinely, very specifically, because you have the mix of talents and skills and experience that fit with that other individual. So, anyways, so sell your brilliance is actually nothing to do with the old paradigm of selling. And that's why I break out the word sell, because it's actually all energetic. So when you become a more embodied person, uh, someone who is aligned with their design, someone who knows how to tap into their higher self or has a relationship with source, and someone who is constantly expanding what I would call your underlying foundation or vessel to receive abundance, then that is when you receive the clients. That's when you receive the ideas, the creative projects, all of it. And yeah, of course, people are making money with the old paradigm, but I'm really in the place of helping everyone elevate to a new way of doing things where we don't have to push we don't have to push our products and services on people anymore. And there's a much easier way of doing it when you can visualize and create your clients in your mind. So when you can visualize that and combine that with being in an energetic state of like happiness and joy and some of these higher states, that is the power of manifestation. And then people come to you in the strangest possible way, you know? It may have nothing to do with what you're doing on a daily, weekly basis to market yourself. But I've had some of the most interesting, random introductions that end up being clients. And I had nothing to do with it. And so that, then that's where the universe kind of co-conspires with you. So it's having that trust and that faith, along with, navigating the signs of what your next action steps should be. Because we are constantly bombarded with, again, looking outside of ourselves for the answers of what we should do to promote our business. When in fact, we don't have to be doing 50 million things. We can focus on the one or two things that we're really good at and that give us joy, and ultimately going to lead us down the right path if we listen.
I was looking at my chart because I have my chart. When you said Saturn, wait, Saturn tells you what you should be doing.
It's what you're working
It's
on.
what I'm working on. So mine is in Pisces.
Ooh. Pisces is intuition. Pisces is a little bit of the psychic realm and emotions.
So it's very funny because it's such an outlier for me. I mean, not to digress, but I just saw, Sun in Leo, Moon in Sagittarius, and then all of a sudden this Pisces Saturn, which was really complicated. Anyway, I was like, fire, fire, water. Ah,
Yeah, Sagittarius is the explorer. If you were going to put it to an archetype, so that might be one of yours as well. And Leo is there can be different roles for Leo, but of course, a leader is typically what people attribute it to, and someone who's showing people in a way how to be in the spotlight as well, which is admirable.
I don't know about that, but certainly my family would say I just like telling people what to do because I'm bossy. That's what they would say. Just like I can't help myself, I'm a contributor. So I want to kind of put a finer point on. Do people understand? Well, you're talking about alignment. You're talking about actually authenticity, being who you are, and attracting like-minded individuals into your space. It's sort of taking authenticity to another realm. It's also taking alignment to another realm. Do you think what's the understanding in your mind, people that you've met, obviously not your clients because they get it, of understanding that there can be spirituality and business alignment?
Well, I've seen a lot of like companies that I used to work with, and I chose them because they had a particular purpose. And unfortunately, it's like when I joined the companies, they started out with this amazing mission. And then, right, a lot of talk, and it was great PR to recruit people. Uh,
We're a
yeah.
heart-driven, mission-centered B Corp.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, a supposedly green company suddenly changes completely and is working for a financial institution. And that often happens. I see that time and again because, basically founders get to a point where like they're looking for money. and they've got to keep afloat somehow. So they totally sell out. I see that time and again where people have the right intentions, and then at the end of the day, they're just like, whatever we need to do by all means. And that comes from a place of lack of abundance mindset, that, the money is only going to come in a certain way. And it comes from these industries that tend to have a lot of money. Well, there's other creative ways of getting money, and you don't have to take money from people you don't want to work with. That happens a lot. It's like, oh, let me take the money of a venture capitalist or a private equity firm, and you don't align with them, but you're desperate. Again, it comes from it's a test. It's a test from the universe, like, are you going to take their money or not? And when you choose to make the right decision, that's actually when the opportunity comes in for the right aligned money to flow.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that.
You have to be of the mindset of, I'm not going to lower my standards. I'm not going to work with people I don't like, and coming from the understanding that there's always other opportunities out there when you say no.
It is amazing. So I have a different, just to kind of have a conversation about that a little bit. I had a guest on the podcast a couple weeks ago, Michelle Collins, and we talked about not being for everybody and being comfortable that we're not for everybody. And I'm finally at this point, I think the last decade or so, where I'm okay saying no to an opportunity if I don't feel that there's some kismet, and like there's just not feeling it. And I think at my age you get a little bit more particular, or maybe more discerning. I'm not sure which, or maybe just I'm not willing to put myself through more pain than I need to. Because you smell PETA, you smell that, you can see it. I think if you've tapped into your energy, or even in your consciousness, you will figure out what's a PETA for you when it shows up. So being able to say I'm not for everybody, and being clear about who you are for, I think brings the universe more of who you're supposed to work with. And I think that's what you just validated for me. I felt it sort of intuitively, for years now. And you have, distinctively proven that out for me, which I am so grateful for. So the next time I say no to somebody, I'll be like, and Michelle would totally support me on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a celebration for sure. And I mean, you are probably at a point now where you're at a mature stage of your business where you don't have to be like grabbing for whomever, and that is a point of stability. So that is one thing I would say I made a mistake on, and probably a lot of other entrepreneurs make a mistake of, is just relying on the revenue from our business. And it's really important to diversify our ourselves, because then you have the sovereignty and the power to say no to things, because you know that you have other income coming from other places as well.
So to unpack that a little bit, because I think that's worthwhile, for especially for women entrepreneurs. They're starting out. You come from a place of scarcity initially. I don't know anyone that sort of put a shingle out and said, this is going to be great, no problem. When they have mortgage payments to play. So, but talk about how you want people to be thinking about income diversification while being true to yourself. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to rewind, I would really start out with just thinking creatively, like, where can I, and there's so many opportunities in the digital marketing space, like, where can you do affiliate marketing? I mean, that's a super easy place to start, where you don't even have to create a product. You can just promote other people and what they're doing. So that's one way you can start. And if you make it aligned with your business, great. If it's in different industries, that's okay too. You can make them cohesive or not. There's opportunities in real estate right now as well. Even you don't have to own a specific space, but there's all kinds of ways to go about it, and making different investments and different choices, I would say also.
Talk about that. I think that's important.
Right. And so, there's a creative way in which you don't have to necessarily make a sacrifice as far as you're, living in a place that you feel is comfortable and safe. And there's different creative ways that you can, for example, right now I'm going to be living in a kind of co-working, co-living type of environment, which is totally new to me and exciting and different. And so there's different choices you can make that really can can release the pressure of making that mortgage payment or making that rental payment. And the amount of opportunities I've had to stay in different places for free as well has been amazing. And so you never know, like tapping into your own network of how other people can give you money in the most amazing ways. Like gifting you a place to stay is in a way, you know, making money in a different way, right? So as long as you're open to different ways that the universe can come in and support you, that's really where the magic begins to happen. But if you're really, stuck with, I must like stay in this one place that I've lived in for, a decade or whatever, or and then I'm not saying, maybe that for that particular individual it makes sense,
Yeah, they could have kids in schools and things like this. That makes sense.
but you can be, I know a couple with kids too, and they travel the world, and they also, it really depends. But the main point is just being open to different ways that money can reach you, and not being so centered also on it being only coming from your business, because all of those things can really support you actually in doing your heart-centered work.
What you're talking about is the connectedness for a person that they get about themselves and the humans around them. And I find that what the thematic that's running through this is connection, human connection. Would you make a statement that the world right now is in need of more human connectedness?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can just see with all the geopolitics that's happening, how much different government agendas are really keeping us divided. It's like there's always something that we've got to hate other people about, or we've got to divide ourselves in some way, whether it's because someone has a different background or political view or something. But there's always this feeling of like there's another person, that we have to separate ourselves from. And unfortunately, I guess that is by design to kind of keep us under control. Because as long as we're in these lower vibrations of hate and of complaining and whatever else, and outrage, that's actually when we can't create for ourselves. So that's actually when we're losing our own power. And so when we come from the perspective that, we are all unique and different, but we're all interconnected and we're all one, and to only want to see other people's perspectives and only want to, yeah, send love to, to people's ways, and to view them with compassion, that's, when miracles can really happen. And it's true that I would say for the entrepreneurial journey, it can be a very, very lonely one. And luckily, I've definitely sought out many different networking groups, different organizations where I've been able to find different resources and different people that have supported me in different ways. So I definitely encourage all founders and business owners to build that support system for yourself, because again, you never know how help can come your way. So if you're only working kind of in a silo, you're only going to be able to achieve what you can individually achieve. So we really need to start building better ecosystems, I would say. And that's going to be part of the extension of my mission, also going forward is building community as well, so that people can uplift each other and we can all thrive together. So I do think that the more we can collaborate and support each other, the better all of us are, and the more more businesses are going to succeed at the end of the day.
It's funny, I just did a podcast the other day about success is not binary. And so my success doesn't mean your failure, or your success doesn't mean my failure. We can both succeed on the same level and coexist very happily. As a matter of fact, I don't understand people who can't get that. So it's very hard for me.
Totally. And I'm even collaborating with people who you would think are supposedly my competitors. They're doing something similar, but the thing is that I know that they have a totally different energy signature from me. And because I know that I'm divinely meant to be working with certain people, there's no competition.
It's going to click or it's not going to click, and they're not the same as you.
Yeah. So if you're secure in knowing your skill set and your own abilities, there's nothing to be afraid of. And in fact, it's even better because you can cross pollinate your audiences, and you can share in the same mission ultimately as well.
Well, I think, Michelle, you nailed something that's very important. You said if you're secure. And I think the women and the entrepreneurs that come to you, they don't always have to be women, but those who come to you need that foundational work to be in the place of secure. Because I don't think that people who would seek you out are going to show up as secure and, connected to the universe and just a little bit more what we'll call open as humans and mindsets and so on. I think they need the process that you put them through in order to get to that place. And then we can talk about success is not binary. Wow. We had a masterclass with Michele today. We talked about healing ourselves from our traumas from the 0 to 7-year-olds, which I've heard over and over again that these are really formative years, but honestly, that's incredible that 95% of our reality comes from our subconscious. That makes me utterly nervous on so many levels because there's a lot of weird people there. No, I'm kidding. The client-centric business model based on what you're intended to do and creating your ideal client is really important. And the way you go about it, I really think is fantastic. The diversification of ourselves and our money sources is an interesting perspective. And then certainly the human connection and all boats rise with the tide, or however that American expression goes that I screw up every time. So those are all really good takeaways. I am excited to give people your contact information in the show notes and links to your websites and your michelleparad.com. 1 L and 1 R. She's the French way. MICHELEPARAD.com. So I will put that in the notes. And thank you so much for being here today. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Monique. This was so much fun.
I know, right? It did. So I could go on forever. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique de Maio, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemaio.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.